During the days when WCW competed against the WWF, you never knew who was gonna jump ship from one promotion to another. While stars such as Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash and Randy Macho Man Savage stunned fans with their jumps, there were other WWF superstars who contemplated joining billionaire Ted. Here are 7 WWF wrestlers who almost defected to WCW. Number 1. Yokozuna. As seen in our Behind the Titantron episode Heroes of Wrestling, Yokozuna was still wrestling after the WWF released him for weight-related issues. Rumour has it Conan, who was friends with Yoko, wanted to bring the big man in as his bodyguard during his run in the New World Order. During an interview on MLW Radio, Conan recalled how Yokozuna almost entered WCW. One time Scott Hall was with Eric Bischoff, and he said to Yokozuna, "Man, Bischoff is right here, let's make this happen." Yoko said, "I don't roll like that. You don't just put someone on the phone and tell me to sign." He got offended and he never came in. The prospect of a Hogan vs Yokozuna rematch probably appealed to the Hulkster as well, but that was not to be. Number 2. Davey Boy Smith. While the British Bulldog left the WWF for WCW following 1997's Montreal Screwjob, rumour has it he almost left the WWF for WCW in 1996 to become the New World Order's 4th man, a role that was ultimately filled by the Giant. Smith, who had just finished a main event program with WWF champion Shawn Michaels, was a hot commodity, but decided to stay up north, signing on the very day he was scheduled to leave for WCW. While Davey Boy Smith eventually left for WCW, he had to buy his way out of his contract, and like Bret Hart, he was poorly used during his WCW run. Smith had previously wrestled in WCW in 1993, and it would have been interesting to see him in the NWO. Number 3. Owen Hart. When Bret Hart left the WWF for WCW, he did so because his WWF contract had expired and he'd signed with WCW. However, the manner of his departure, which infamously became known as the Montreal Screwjob, prompted Hart's family members to want to leave with him. Brother Owen Hart wanted to leave but was contractually obligated to stay, and Vince McMahon refused to let him go, unlike Davey Boy Smith. Tragically, Owen died while under contract to the WWF, perishing in a stunt gone wrong at the Over the Edge pay-per-view.
Owen Hart has tragically died from that accident here tonight.
According to people who knew Owen Hart, he did not want to wrestle much longer, desiring to bank enough money so he could become a firefighter. Had he gone to WCW, it's possible he would have finished up his career then and moved out of wrestling. Number 4. Shawn Michaels. When Shawn Michaels' fellow Clique members Scott Hall and Kevin Nash jumped to WCW, Michaels was despondent. Not only would Michaels miss his friends, not to mention Nash's backstage protection, but at the time he was miserable in the WWF. Michaels would ask Vince McMahon for his release, but McMahon knew he couldn't afford to lose another top-tier performer to the company that was killing the WWF. During a 2015 appearance on the Ross Report, Michaels recalled his conversation with Vince McMahon about wanting to leave the WWF for WCW. "I thought about it, but there's 2 things. I went to Vince and said, 'Let me go. I'm miserable here. I want to go down and be with my buddies.' He just said no. I'm under contract under WWE, so I couldn't. But there was a time I wanted to go." Michaels went on to detail how Vince McMahon told him he wouldn't have the same leeway in working matches the way he did in the WWF. He said, "You're a creative guy. Once you get past being angry and it comes to working, you want to do things your way. They won't let you do that down there, and that's gonna kill you. They'll kill the one thing about this business you enjoy." I think he had some validity there. Had the WWF lost Michaels to WCW, that would have been the coup de grace for the WWF. Number 5. Bret Hart. Like Davey Boy Smith, we know that Bret Hart eventually left the WWF for WCW. However, as documented in our 3-part Behind the Titantron episode The Montreal Screwjob, Hart was approached by Eric Bischoff in 1996 about jumping ship, potentially to become the 3rd member of the NWO. Hart was in Los Angeles making an appearance for The Simpsons when Eric Bischoff met with him to discuss coming to WCW. In his memoir, Hart claims he told Bischoff he wanted the same deal as Hogan, plus 1 penny. Bischoff told Hart he couldn't do that, but to give him a figure. Hart would counteroffer with $3 million a year and a lighter schedule. Days later, Bischoff countered with an offer of $2.8 million a year and a lighter schedule. While McMahon couldn't match the dollar amount up front, he negotiated a spectacular 20-year deal with the Hitman, with Vince McMahon telling Hart he had a career there for the rest of his life. A year later, McMahon would tell Hart he could no longer honour his agreement, leading Hart to renew his talks with WCW. Number 6. The Undertaker. One of the biggest WWF superstars who almost went to WCW could have helped save the sinking WCW ship, or at least kept it afloat longer than 2001. In a 2015 interview with Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso, Kevin Nash revealed a top WWF star he was trying to get to come to Atlanta. "We had Taker close," said Nash, referencing when The Undertaker was a free agent in 2000 and was unhappy with the direction of his character. All of a sudden, he wasn't the dead man. He became the American badass for a reason. That dead man wasn't going to fucking come to WCW. He would have been the biker character and gone by Mark Calloway. All along, I was trying to get guys money. I was trying to get guys paid, and what happened was Vince started giving huge guarantees to the Shawns and the Undertakers and those guys and said, I can't lose my core guys. Of course, the Undertaker opted to stay with the WWF, transforming into the American badass and freshening up his career for the next few years. And number 7, The Godfather. Wrestler Charles Wright struggled to find success in the WWF, working a number of gimmicks including Papa Shango and Kama the Ultimate Fighting Machine before finding his way as the Godfather. However, Wright almost ended up in WCW as the New World Order's bodyguard. In a 2012 interview, Wright revealed how he almost had the gig, only to be undersold. I almost went to WCW to be Hogan's enforcer in the NWO. I named my price, the contract was being drawn up, and then at the last minute, I got a call saying the contract was being retracted and there was no longer an offer for me. I was stunned, man, just stunned. I asked why, and it turned out that Virgil offered to do it for a third of the price, because he wanted to be back on TV so bad. That dumb motherfucker cost us both. In hindsight, Wright would make the right move and is now enshrined in the WWE Hall of Fame, while Virgil has become the star of Lonely Virgil memes. Well guys, there you have it, 7 WWF wrestlers who almost defected to WCW. Were there any we missed out? Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.